Your morning spice rack might be hiding a toxic secret. In 2025, routine tests uncovered alarmingly high levels of heavy metals, lead, cadmium, and arsenic in popular spice brands you probably have at home. This isn't rare herbs imported. From unregulated source, it's the McCormick's Great Value. Trader Joe's seasonings you use every day. Let that sink in. A third of tested spice products posed potential health risks for children and adults alike. Basil, black pepper, chili powder, cumin, even turmeric, you named it. Several popular spices failed safety benchmarks. That's more than flavor, it's a silent exposure that builds every time you sprinkle in Lancaster, PA. A 2025 academic study found over 90% of spices contained arsenic, cadmium, or lead. 40% exceeded New York State's lead limit. These toxins accumulate in your kidneys, nervous system, and even your dementia risk. And yet, regulators offer little protection. The FDA doesn't enforce hard limits on heavy metals and spices, leaving oversight to voluntary industry standards. What this means is simple. Your dinner table might be delivering hidden contamination gradually, meal after meal. You season your food for taste, not toxic exposure, but the stakes go deeper. Heavy metals are linked to cancers, kidney damage, cognitive decline, and reproductive harm. In this video, we're exposing which brands and spices failed, which ones passed, and most importantly, what you need to do to protect your family. We'll also explain how discrepancies in labeling, sourcing, and testing hide this threat from view and why it's your kitchen that needs to wake up. No fear, no sensationalism, just facts, clarity, and power. Let's clear the toxins from your spice rack. In April 2025, a peer-reviewed study from Environmental Monitoring and Assessment analyzed 197 spice samples purchased in Lancaster. The results were shocking. Over 90% of the spices tested showed detectable levels of arsenic, cadmium, or lead. Even more alarming, about 40% of those samples contained lead levels exceeding New York State's legal limit of 1 ppm. To put that into context, spices like turmeric, chili powder, cumin, and cinnamon, staples in pantries everywhere, may be delivering more than just flavor. They're delivering heavy metals too. These compounds accumulate silently over time. Even the study's median lead level of 0.177 ppm appears low, but for heavy metals, every microgram counts. This is especially true for families with young children, who can experience cognitive and developmental harm even at low exposure levels. Consumer Reports, which tested 126 spice products from mainstream brands like McCormick, Great Value, Trader Joe's, and Whole Foods, found similarly worrying results. More than 1/3 of tested products had combined levels of lead, arsenic, and cadmium concerning. Enough to raise alarms for children and adults too. Thyme and oregano were among the worst offenders, and 31 products showed lead levels exceeding even California's Prop 65 safe harbor threshold. Cinnamon remains a major red flag. A 2023 CDC report linked 500 cases of lead poisoning in children to cinnamon flavoring in apple puree pouches. Rates of elevated lead were traced back to contaminated cinnamon. The FDA responded with voluntary recalls for multiple spice products. Why? Are spices contaminated? Two main reasons: environmental uptake. Plants absorb heavy metals from soil and groundwater. Some spices like cinnamon bark or turmeric root concentrate metals more than others. Economic adulteration. Some manufacturers have been caught using lead-containing dyes, for example, lead chromate in turmeric to brighten appearance. This isn't limited to obscure imports or organic labels. Spices sold in your local grocery branded bulk packaged are all potentially contaminated. Worse, the FDA doesn't enforce strict metal limits for spices. Most oversight is voluntary or reactive. In contrast, New York State has taken a proactive stance. In 2018, it set a 1 ppm action level for lead, arsenic, and cadmium in spices, resulting in over 100 recalls across multiple years. In short, your spice rack might be one of the most inconspicuous yet consistent sources of heavy metal exposure. The flavor enhancer your food depends on could also be the toxic contaminant your health didn't anticipate. You hear lead, arsenic, and cadmium. And it sounds bad, but what do they really do to your body? Let's start with lead. Even in tiny amounts, lead is a neurotoxin. It interferes with brain development, reduces IQ, and damages memory and attention span, especially in children. But adults aren't immune. Long-term exposure in older adults has been linked to high blood pressure, kidney damage, and increased risk of dementia. And because lead accumulates in your bones and tissues, it stays in your body for decades, slowly eroding your health. Then there's arsenic. Known for its association with poison, arsenic is actually found in soil and water, and it can end up in crops like rice and spices. Ingesting arsenic regularly, even at low doses, has been tied to skin disorders, lung and bladder cancers, and diabetes. It also weakens your immune system, leaving you more vulnerable to infections. Cadmium, the third heavy metal on this toxic trio, is particularly dangerous for the kidneys and bones. Chronic exposure can cause bone demineralization, making fractures more likely, especially concerning for older adults. Cadmium also affects your cardiovascular system and has been linked to hormone disruption. These aren't theoretical risks. They're biological certainties with enough exposure. And unlike bacteria or allergens, heavy metals can't be cooked out of food. You can't wash them off, you can't taste them, but your body absorbs them anyway, 1 teaspoon at a time. Now imagine that exposure happening not once, but daily. With every sprinkle of chili powder, every dash of turmeric. Over time, that silent accumulation adds up, especially in children and seniors who are more vulnerable to toxic overload. The worst part, there's often no immediate symptom, no rash, no bad taste. Just slow, invisible damage till it's too late. Knowing the science behind these metals makes one thing clear. Spice contamination is not a minor issue. It's not about food preference. It's about protecting your long-term health, your brain, your organs, your children. And it starts by knowing what you're really putting on your plate. Let's get specific. Which spices are the worst offenders? According to recent testing data, turmeric consistently ranks as one of the most contaminated. Why? Because some suppliers illegally add lead chromate to make the color more vibrant. Brighter yellow means more perceived freshness to buyers. But that yellow glow could be a red flag for lead exposure in 2023 and 2024. Multiple turmeric batches from major store brands, including those sold at discount retailers and ethnic markets, were recalled after lead levels far exceeded safety thresholds. In some cases, a single teaspoon contained over 2,000 times the lead limit recommended for children. Cinnamon is another shocker. Following a CDC investigation in 2023, cinnamon flavoring used in fruit pouches for kids was found to contain dangerously high levels of lead, resulting in over 500 confirmed lead poisoning cases. That cinnamon was traced back to bulk spice imports used by multiple U.S. suppliers. Then there's chili powder and paprika. Both are dried, ground fruits and highly absorbent. Tests show they often carry a combination of lead and cadmium, especially when sourced from regions with contaminated soil or loose regulations. Some generic store brands showed elevated levels in blind testing. Oregano and thyme also made headlines when testing revealed lead levels that violated California's Prop 65 regulations. What's alarming is that many of these were sold under well-known natural or organic labels, proof that natural doesn't always mean safe. Even black pepper, one of the most common spices in American homes, has turned up with cadmium and arsenic levels high enough to raise concerns specially. When sold in bulk containers, and what about brands? Tests have flagged issues in products from Great Value, Walmart, Trader Joe's, McCormick's, and even Whole Foods. While not every product from these brands is dangerous. The lack of consistent oversight means even big names aren't immune. Bottom line, price, brand, and label claims don't guarantee purity. Some of the most contaminated spices are also the most popular, and they're sitting in kitchen cabinets across America right now. Up next, what to do about it. Now that you know what's hiding in your spice rack, the next question is simple. What can you do? First, audit your spices. Go to your kitchen and check each bottle. Look at the brand. If it's from a dollar store, an unknown importer, or a generic label with no clear country of origin, toss it. Low price often means low oversight. Second, look for brands that publish third-party testing. Some reputable spice companies now issue lab results or certifications for heavy metal levels. Brands like Simply Organic, Frontier Cope, and Spicely. Organics have stronger transparency records and cleaner sourcing practices. Avoid buying bulk spices in unlabeled bags or jars, especially from markets or online vendors that don't disclose testing data. These are the most common entry points for contaminated product. Go for USDA-certified organic spices. But with caution, organic doesn't guarantee zero metals, but organic farms often avoid the worst soil contamination and additives. Look for packaging that says, tested for heavy metals, Prop 65 compliant, lead-free certified also. Rotate your spice use. Don't rely on the same higher-risk spices like turmeric or cinnamon every day. Variety helps reduce cumulative exposure. If you love turmeric, look for root-based supplements that are purified and certified safe. Wash your produce. But remember, you can't wash away heavy metals and spices. They're absorbed during growth or processing, not just sitting on the surface. If you're cooking for kids, pregnant women, or older adults, be extra cautious. Even small exposures have outsized effects on vulnerable systems. And finally, store your spices safely. Use glass jars instead of plastic when possible. Avoid keeping them near heat sources where chemicals can degrade faster. Being informed isn't about fear, it's about power. Once you know what to avoid and where to look, you can protect your family with confidence. You deserve flavor without fear. So what's the takeaway? The spices in your cabinet, those little jars you use every day, could be delivering more than flavor. They could be exposing you and your family to heavy metals that damage your brain, your kidneys, and your future. This isn't about panic, it's about awareness. You deserve to know what you're putting on your plate. You deserve better than silence from regulators and shortcuts from suppliers. Now you do know. And that knowledge gives you power. Power to clean out your spice rack. Power to choose brands that test and disclose. Power to protect your children's development, your partner's health, your own longevity. So here's what you can do right now. Hit like. Share this with someone who cooks for their family every day. Leave a comment if you've ever had doubts about your food safety. And subscribe, because this channel is committed to pulling back the curtain and telling you what no label will. The food system won't change overnight, but your next meal can, and that's where real change begins. With choices you make at home. Thanks for watching. Remember, it's not just what's on your plate that matters. It's what's hidden in your seasoning.